Welcome to another CodeIgniter tutorial video. Today we'll sort out our account page, give our customers an easy to find download section so as they can download all of their files. So if we log in as a customer, first thing we'll do is give them two buttons inside here, which is the checkout page, which is where people land as soon as they've been logged in. And if they don't have anything in their shopping cart, they won't have anything to follow through the checkout with. So we'll give them two buttons here that will take them to their account section and the download section, which we'll make shortly. So if we come into application, views, and into default, and if we open checkout.php, right inside the div ID of content, we'll add in a couple of buttons. So right here, we just want a div with a class of button, and we already have button inside our CSS. So these buttons will already be styled, and here we want an href that points to our base URL and our account controller. And here we'll let them know that this button will take them to their account. Next thing we'll have is a BR with a class of clear both, and we have this class in our CSS as well, just to ensure that floated items sit appropriately. Then we'll have another div with a class of button, and this button here will point to the account, controller, and the downloads function inside there, which we'll make shortly. And here we'll let them know that this button takes them to their downloads, and we'll close our href and close that div. So if we have our two buttons, we can save that, upload it back to the server, and then if we refresh our page, we now have a button to our account and a button to our downloads. So the next thing we'll do is build our downloads section. So if we come back into application and into config, we want to add one rule into our routes. So if we open routes.php, and if we come down to our front end routes, and right here where we have our account rules, we want to add an extra route in here. So right here, I'll paste this straight in, and we just want our link to say account/downloads. That'll point to our account controller and the downloads function inside that. So if we save this, before we make our downloads function, there's one tiny little thing we need to do inside our database. So if we come into phpMyAdmin, and if we have a look at our ordered products table, I've already added one column on to the end of this. So you want to add one column after download, and you want to give it a name of customer ID, a type of integer, and a length of 11. And if you add that to this table, if we click if we click browse, you can then see we have a customer ID field where I've already just manually added in the customer ID that we've got in our test orders. And seeing as we only have one customer, because we're still testing, our customer ID is 1. Now to use this field, we need to go into application controllers, upload that back to the server, come into application controllers, and we want to open checkout.php. Here we want to add to our pay function. So if we come down to our public function pay, where we sort through our ordered products, we just want to add one line onto the bottom of this array right here. So all we want to do here is just add the fact that we're going to record our customer ID, and we'll do that by using a session user data customer ID. So if we've got this added on to the bottom of our ordered products array, which already gets passed to our add item ordered function in our checkout model, we can now use that customer ID to then display all of the ordered products to the customer, which I'll show you next. So if you save this file and upload this back to the server again, we stay in application controllers and open our account.php. We'll now make that download function, or that download list. So if we can write down to the bottom of the file, and just before our last bracket, we want to add in another function here. I'll paste this straight in and show you what I've done. So public function downloads, and here we'll just create a theme variable as we do in all of our front end pages. Then we'll build our menus that we then pass over to our header, and down here we use our theme so as we can tell where our files are, and we pass our header menu straight to our header here as we normally do. And down the bottom here we build all our footer data and pass that to our footer as we normally do in all of our front end. Now the only thing that's different in this page is this part right here, and here we'll set out a pagination for all our downloadable items. Now if we look at the very top of our file here, we already have a library for our pagination already loaded, so we don't have to worry about that. So now it is loaded, we can just set out a config for our pagination, and we do that like this. Our config will point to our base URL, our account controller, and this downloads function that we are in right now. And then our total rows, we'll grab that from this account model downloads count, and we'll make that function in a minute. Now per page you can set that to what you want, but just now I've done that to 5. The URI segment we're using, because we're already using 1 for our controller, 2 for the downloads function. URI segment number 3 is where we'll display which page of our paginated results we are on. Then we initialize the pagination, and then we get from our account model and our get downloads function, we'll get all of our results. And obviously we'll pass over our per page and our URI segment to see where we are in the list, and we'll do those functions in our model in a minute. The next thing we'll do is set out our variable for our links, so that'll be download links, and that'll be connected to this pagination create links. Then we set our page data array up, and inside here we'll add in our variable for our paginated results and the links, you see. And as we normally do, we pass our page data over to the view. Now in this case our view wants to be called downloads.php, and we'll make that in a minute. But the next thing we want to do is add to our account model and add in our downloads count and our get downloads function. So if we save our controller, upload this back to the server again, if we open our model, so application models, and if we open our account model, you have 2 wee functions to add in. So if we come down, right down to the bottom of the file before our last bracket, I'll paste these in, and we have a public function get downloads. Now we take a per page and our URI from our paginated config, and we use that per page and our URI to decide what our limit is. So we'll limit the results per page, and we'll offset it by what page we are on. Next thing we'll do is order our results by ID, and we'll set them as descending so as we get the newest first. Then we want to set out some where clauses that will check if our customer ID for each ordered product matches our customer ID that we have in this session user data customer ID, and we'll also check to see if download is not equal to nothing. And if we look in here, if download is equal to nothing, it means we don't have a downloadable file. But if we do have something, then we have a downloadable item, you see. And then we'll set our query to this DB get ordered products, and that will get all the ordered products where the customer ID matches the customer ID and download is not equal to nothing. Then we'll return those queried results. Now our count function does exactly the same, but we don't need a limit and we don't need to order them because we are just counting the results instead of just returning the results. So here we'll return this DB count all results. Obviously we'll be counting the results from our ordered product table where our customer ID equals this session user data customer ID and where download is not equal to nothing. So if we have these two functions in our model, we can save that. We already have a controller done and sorted, so we can save this. If we save them back to the server again, we want to come into application views, default, and we want to make our download.php. So if we create a new file, downloads.php, plural and lowercase because it's a view, and if we open this file, I'll paste this straight in and I'll show you what we've got. We have a basic div ID of content, and inside here we have a div with a class of button, and here we'll just point them to the account if they need to. Then we have some h2 tags that let them know that they are in the download section, and then we'll set out our for each loop, which will for each through our download results as row. And then we can echo out a row invoice and a row download file. So how we do that is we set a div with a class of downloads, and inside here we'll set some h3 tags that display the invoice number. Then underneath that we'll have a div with a class of downloads file, and here we'll display a link with an image so that people can download their file. Inside our href we'll point that to our download controller, the item function inside there, and to make sure they get the appropriate file, we'll pass over on the end of the URL the row invoice, and then we'll separate that with an underscore, and then we'll put row download, which will add in the file for download. And then inside these bold tags we'll just echo out the file name that we have for download. Then after that I've just put a wee image that displays a download icon to make it quite obvious that this is a link for download. Now I've just got a quick icon here, download-icon.png, and I've already added that into our images default folder. And there are plenty of places you can get icons online for free with a free license, so I'll let you choose your own download icon. And here I've just set the width to 50 pixels. I've gave it a title of download file and an alt tag of download file. And then we close our href, we close the div class of download file which contains a link, and here we'll have a div class of downloads info which will just display the price for that one individual downloadable file. Then we'll close our div class of downloads, we'll close our for each loop, and then outside of our for each loop we'll have a div with an ID of page links, and in here we'll just echo out our download links. And as we normally do, we clear both to make sure the bottom of the page sits properly, and then we close our div ID of content. So if we save this and upload this back to the server, if we have our controller done and we have our public function downloads in here, if we have our model done and we have our two required functions there, and we have our view done, all of these are uploaded back to the server again. If we come back onto our site again, and if we click our downloads link, there we go, we have a rather unstyled page, but we do have an invoice number and the download link. So the next thing to do is to style this page, and alongside it, this account page here, and this invoice page right here. We'll style all three of these at the same time. So if we come into application, if we come back out of application into the root of our site, and then into our CSS folder, default, and open our style.css. We want to add in some global CSS right at the bottom of this file, so just above our footer. We want to add in a few things. So just there, above our footer ID, I'll paste this in. I'll show you what we've got. Now first off, we want some styling rules for three classes. We want our invoices, our downloads class, and our ordered products. Now to show you, we've got one file to open. If we come into views, default, we want to open our invoice.php, because we will be styling this too. If we come into our invoice.php, we have a div class of invoice, we have date, we have invoice info, we have invoice details, and we have delivery address, and we have invoice comments. If we look in our downloads, we have downloads here, downloads file, downloads info. If we look in our account page, which we don't have open, that's controller. So back into views, default, and if we open our account page, because we do need this too. And if we look at the div classes we've got in here, we have invoice, we have date, we have invoice info, and in our style sheet we have these very corresponding divs here. So div class invoices, div class downloads, and our div class of ordered products will get the same styling rules that we've got here. And these rules are a bit of padding to make sure the interior sits off the edge, a wee bit of a margin to make sure there's some space around the outside of the div, with a box shadow where the X and Y position will be 0, the blur will be 6 pixels, and the colour will be dark grey. We'll float that left and make it 98% of its containing div, which is the content div. If we look in here, that would be this div right here. So this will be 98% of our content div. And the next thing we do is just set out our backgrounds, which will display a linear gradient, and that will be a light grey in a diagonal. So I'll show you that in a minute. The next thing we want to do, our invoice details and our invoice date. If we look into our invoice here, we have our invoice details, and up the top here we have a div class date, but we're going to change that to invoice date because it is our invoice page. So this here and this here are these things that we are styling right here. So our invoice details will float that left, and we'll give that a width. Our date will also float left, but we'll give that a smaller width of 48%. And our invoice info and our downloads info, which if we look in our invoice.php, invoice info we have here, and if we look in our downloads, we have downloads info here, so we'll give them both the same styling rules. And that's just floating them right and giving them a width of 45%. Now it will become apparent why we're doing this in a minute. And the last two things we want to do is just move our download icon, which is just the wee image we've got, and we want to just push that over by -20 pixels. And then the div classes that contain the image we just want to give that an overall margin of 15 pixels just to position that a wee bit better. So if we have all of this right here in our style sheet, we can save this file, come back into our invoice, and before we save this div class of invoice details, we want to remove our delivery address from the inside of here, and we want to move that outside. So we want our div class of invoice details to contain our unordered list, and outside of that div we want to put our delivery address. Then underneath that we'll have our invoice comments, but if there are no comments to display, we don't really want to display anything here at all, so we can change that and we can put this here instead. So we have the same div ID of invoice comments, and inside there we still echo out customer comments, and underneath that we'll place all the comments attached to there. Now the only thing we want to do is add an if statement around this. It will check to see if our row comments are not equal to null, and if they're not equal to null we will display what we have. If we save that file, we've got our views sorted, we have our CSS sorted. We can upload these back to the server again, and if we click refresh on this invoice page first off, there we go. Now we have our address sitting up next to our invoice information. We have our date at the top. We have an overall cost sitting here, but we will add more to this because we have information from our shipping and our discounts module that we will be putting in next. So far, without putting more information in here, we can leave that as it is. And if we go back to our account page, we have a wee extra bit of style in here, but we could do with a couple of buttons here as well. So if we come into account.php, and just here we'll put a couple of buttons. So a div with a class of button, and seeing as we're already in our account, we'll point this to our customer controller and a logout function inside there, so as our customers have a way to log out of the site. Then here we'll give them a link to our account controller and the downloads function, so as they can see all of our downloads. So if we have these two buttons in our account page, we already have a button in our downloads page. If we look at the top of our invoice page, we could really do with some buttons in here too. So on our invoice page, we'll add in here, as we've got everywhere else, div with the class of button, and we'll have a wee link straight to the account section, and we'll also have a link to our download section. So if we save that and upload these changes back to the server, refresh this page, we should have buttons here too. There we go, we have a logout button and a download button, and the download button takes us to our download section, and things here display perfectly well. And we have our icon shown, our text shows properly, and our link points to the appropriate function, and that works fine too. And as we did in the last video, inside the invoice we already have a link to download the item here, and we have an easy to find way for our customers to download their items here as well. So before we finish today, we'll add an easy to find button in the header to allow our customers to either log in or find their account page. So if we come into views default, we want to open our header.php. And just under our header search box here, we want to add in this wee div with the class of button and an ID of login button, And here we'll point that to our account, and if the customer is logged in, they'll be taken straight to their account, but if they're not, they'll be sent to the login page. So we want to check to see if this session user data customer logged in is equal to true, and if it is, we'll put the text account for the button. Else if they're not logged in, we'll put the text login. Then we'll close our href and close that div class, and if we save this we can add to our style sheet. So if we come right up the very top of our file, we want to add in to our small screen, just under our search box, one wee line straight here. So here we'll grab our login button div ID, so as we can float that right, our margin will give it a -4 pixels on the top. We'll push it over on the side by 4 pixels, and we'll add a clear both to here to make sure our header search box sits underneath it properly. But in our small screen we don't really need to worry about that. In our large screen we do though. So if we come down our style sheet into our large screens, which is just here, and right in this gap here, if we add in our login button div ID, the rule we want to change here, instead of -4, we will be showing a header search box, so the header search box will push this login button down. So to bring it back up again, I want to put that to -73, and that will pull the button back up to where it should be on our large screens when we have a search box showing, you see. So if we've got them in our style sheet, if we save that, and we have a header sorted with our button in there, and if we save that up to the server, and if we refresh our page, we now have a button up the top that will take us straight to our account. There we go. And if we log out, the button should change to login, and it does. So now we have an easy way for our customers to get to their downloads. The next thing we've got to do is our htaccess file to prevent direct access to these files. So we'll do that in the next video, and we'll call it a day for today. So if you liked this video, please click subscribe, and I'll see you again next time. Thank you.